MK Onslaught is the most fun I have with MK currently. From the regular new Chronicle stories that could do with a little work admittedly, to the rush of collecting all the alts. For all its faults, I'm a fan. And so, I'm here to give 16 suggestions for new characters that could be added. I'll be considering obvious holes in the roster, Chronicle story ideas, main story potential, and sometimes gameplay ideas. I'll be splitting the wish list into 4 categories, each consisting of 4 characters, enough to make a full team. The categories are brand new character, new M1K rep, new classic alt, and a new general alt. I'll be avoiding adding characters in multiple categories because we don't want to have too many alts added for one character in too short a time. We've already had 3 Kuai Liang since launch. I'll also be assigning classes to them, so for those not in the know, Assassin is melee DPS, Defender is a tank, Warrior is an all-rounder melee class, Attacker is ranged targeting the front line, Sniper is ranged targeting the back line, and Support is anything from healing to summons to buffs and debuffs. And just to add, right after I finalised the script for this video, the game released its final 2 main story chapters, so some of this stuff, particularly this first section, may be completely irrelevant now, and several things will be outdated. But I'm too lazy to change it! For the new characters, I picked 4 characters who exist in MK11 where most of the game's core roster originates, which will allow them to show up in story cinematics. First, we have Shiva, who is already in the story but is not able to be fought, forcing Goro to be the main Shokan fighter. Adding Shiva will allow the Shokan Queen to actually do stuff in the game besides sitting on her throne and very occasionally getting name dropped. She'd probably be Defender class, but a support Shokan would be neat and allow her to have leadership qualities for them. Second, we have Sector. It's funny that the game made MK11 inspired cyber designs for Smoke and Sub-Zero, but Sector, who was actually in MK11, is completely absent. Bring him back and make use of the cyber initiative in more Chronicles. Let's be real, when we get M1K Smoke in the game, having him fight the cyber initiative is the obvious direction to go, but without Sector, it would just be weird. I see him being an assassin with teleports. Third, Reptile. I don't know if his Crypt cameo is the MKX model or an updated model with the same design, but we need a traditional Reptile before the M1K version makes his way over so we can capitalise on the contrast. And no, throwing in MK2 or 3 Reptile will not cut it. Make it the full scaly for the contrast with the Shapeshifter. He can be an assassin with M1K Shank stealth capability. And finally, the big one, Ermac. NetherRealm really needs to step up its game in letting us use costumes that were limited to NPCs in prior entries. MKX Rain, Sindel, Baraka and Li Mei for M1K, and MK11 Sector, Cyrax and Ermac in either game. And with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi being so prominent in the main story now, they could easily be the ones to create him here. I see him being an attacker with telekinesis, or a tank that can take on multiple people at once like in Deception and M1K. M1K's version can be support with spirit summons. For our second category, we're proposing general alts that could be used in either story mode or Chronicles. First, Cyberfrost. The fact that Frost heads up the Cyber Lin Kuei without being a cyborg herself is strange. It doesn't have to be the one with the Karen haircut, as many of her other cyber forms would fit just as well, and it's better for Onslaught to change the MK11 designs to make them uniquely Onslaught. Just bring her and Sector into the game to complete the set, and lay the foundation for Sector's return and coup, a Cyber Civil War arc, or the full might of the cyborgs to face down M1K Smoke in his Chronicle. She can be support, greatly increasing cyborg healing with nanites. Next is Dark Raiden. Or was. As said, the day I finalised this script, after I'd done the first recording session, he was announced for the main story, so I need to change it. I'll throw in what I had for him at the end as a bonus. But the new other one is Base Cabal. Cabal only exists in the game as Classic Cabal, while his actual Onslaught iteration goes down in a cutscene to Jax and is never mentioned again. This would bolster the Black Dragon roster so that we can have more than 2 actual characters we fight each time these guys show up. If they do another story in the same timeline, maybe they could give him a face turn as well after he spent the last decade as a villain, willing or otherwise. Rather than support, he would be an assassin with a dash to move between foes quickly. Third, we need more Revenants. We have Kitana and Scorpion, but I wonder if the small number is why they've been completely absent from Chronicles up to now. See, Chronicles often use alts for certain characters to help denote it as an alternate timeline, but Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Melina and Kitana all have alts that have gone unused up to now. I'll cover this a bit more in the Chronicles Wasted Potential, but for now, I'll add Liu Kang so that we can run the full gamut of MK11 Liu Kangs, and then someone who was never a Revenant in canon like Johnny or Sonya to go along with Scorpion. Then the full might of this faction can be utilised in Chronicles instead of having us fight the Black Dragon for the billionth time. Liu Kang can be support, using that weird amulet to trap enemies like in Aftermath. The other is just a class they don't have yet. For For the classic alts, I'm going to propose that we start utilising 3D era designs as well as arcade era, both for variety and because of this specific example, Nitara. There's no chance in hell that Megan Fox is coming back for the mobile spin-off. We'll be looking to get new intro lines for her in the next DLC season, but it would be jarring to see her M1K self pop up in Onslaught with a different face and voice. So I'd have her debut in her Deadly Alliance form, or that terrible M1K version I guess, with Christina V moving from just grunts to full-on voice lines for the character. Or if we need some big name actor who's played a vampire before, Laura Bailey from Blood Rain? She's worked with you before? Come on. She'd be support via blood magic. Next, Deception Shujinko. He's more for gameplay than story because I think having a character that can choose an ally or enemy and use their special could be a fun gimmick. Just make sure he actually, looks like him this time. He can be an assassin given how powerful he is while also being a brittle old man. Third, Mythology's Serena. I just want one version that can bring Bi-Han back from his corruption. She'd team up with Arctica Kuai Liang, probably Ashura at some point too, and save Bi-Han from Quan Chi. Probably best to wait until M1K Bi-Han is added to represent his purification. Yes, this does mean yet another Chronicle with Quan Chi as the main villain, but who else is Serena's main villain going to be? Frost? She's an assassin, of course. And finally, MK1 Johnny Cage. This Chronicle idea is the story of Johnny's Mortal Kombat movie where he is the hero. But it can be left ambiguous as to whether this is just a movie or a timeline where it really happens, like how Ninja Mime seems to be a real person in the current multiverse. He can be a warrior, reflecting his greater skill than his main Onslaught version, who prioritises DPS over defense. And for the last category, M1K alts. I think the priority should be characters who aren't in Onslaught yet, and characters whose M1K versions have substantial differences from the classics. Case in point, the Edenians. This Chronicle could work with Sindel, Katana or Melina, but since the sisters both have multiple forms, including a post-launch alt for each, while Sindel only has one version, I'd use her if this was done now. She finds a timeline with Katana fighting a civil war against Melina Khan. Katana thinks Sindel is a clone sent to kill her, while her Sindel is evil or mind-controlled. M1K Sindel helps to kill or free her counterpart, and then pushes to spare Melina and rehabilitate her. This causes conflict with Katana, making her the final foe before Sindel can talk them all around to trying to be a family like they are in her timeline. She can be a support character who uses debuffs inspired by her ability to disable cameos in M1K. Second, General Shao fleeing into the multiverse after a failed coup against whomever the writers choose, he finds a timeline where he rules everything. Shao then works to depose his counterpart and lead his armies to invade the timeline of the other Shao Kahn alt that's already in the game, building up a colossal army across timelines, which could eventually lead to an invasion season in the second wave where he makes the mistake of attacking the main timeline. He can be a warrior to suit his lower status, or a support who summons minions to reflect his status as a military commander. Bi-Han as Sub-Zero is one I'm sure the team is just waiting a bit longer for so that we don't have two Sub-Zeros too close together. Or three, I guess. Having Bi-Han Sub-Zero come face to face with Bi-Han Noob Cybots, along with the full horror of the Cyber Initiative, aligning with a wise, honourable Kuai Liang Sub-Zero, could give him a lot to think about with the direction he's taken the Lin Kuei after M1K. And lastly, Janet Cage. Give her an actual timeline, show how her timeline differs. Maybe we can't have her gaying it up with Black Dragon Sonya, but we can still have her flirt with Sonya, or see which of the guys she'd pester. Have small differences like Evil Empress Sindel and Protector God Fujin. Just a fun little one with small, arbitrary differences to show us how different Janet's timeline is from the norm, rather than the literal nothing we currently have. And here's the Dark Raiden bit before we close. Next, Dark Raiden. Not only is Raiden completely lacking in alts right now, but Dark Raiden is an obvious, borderline essential alt at this point, who can set up a great chronicle for his M1K self, who can ally with a good god Raiden to fight an evil one. Maybe he's here to counter a Dark Invader, like at the end of Invasion Season 5, or this is a sequel to that, where Mortal Raiden is from a multiversal order of Raidens that seek to purify, destroy, or depower Dark Raidens across the multiverse. This could even be that now depowered Raiden proving his desire to redeem himself. Chronicles should connect to invasions in general, I think. He can be assassin class using his lightning blades in combat. And those are my choices. There's more that I didn't cover, like Combat Kids or Gearus, but they don't fit Onslaught as much right now. I'd also love it if Chronicle characters were used in other Chronicles. If we must keep seeing Katana, let her be classic sometimes. Let Shang Tsung be M1K if he's going to constantly be an enemy here. And add new Quan Chis and Kano so that the 800,000 times we fight them here can be a bit more varied. Come on now. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended channel is Black Dragon Gaming, which is a mobile-centric channel with particular focus on Onslaught.